You've heard it before, no contact is a powerful tool. But what happens when the tables are turned and you realize that she's also not reaching out to you? The silence is deafening, the distance feels unbearable, and the uncertainty grows. What if the person you've been thinking about, the one you want, is also using no contact against you? Does it mean she's moved on? Or is there something more at play here? In this speech, I'm going to walk you through how to deal with this situation and what you should understand about her actions. More importantly, I'll teach you how to approach this with the right mindset, whether you're looking to reconnect or move forward with clarity and confidence. We're all human, and no contact can be a weapon, either consciously or subconsciously. If she's doing no contact with you, it's easy to assume it's a sign of disinterest or rejection. But the truth is, no contact isn't just a tactic used by one party in the equation. It can be a response, a defense mechanism, or even a test. If she's also doing no contact with you, here's what you need to keep in mind. 1, it's not always about you. Sometimes she might be pulling away because she's working through her own issues. She might be confused, hurt, or unsure about where things stand between you two. No contact could be her way of processing everything without the pressure of having to explain herself to you. It's important not to take it personally, even if it feels like she's ignoring you too. It can be a test of your worth and patience. In some cases, she might want to see how you react to the distance. Is she testing your commitment, your patience, your emotional control? Sometimes people want to know if you'll fight for them or if you'll crumble under the silence. If you've been clear and upfront with your intentions and she still pulls away, it's possible she's trying to figure out if you truly value her or if you'll just move on when things get tough. There is absolutely no shame in where individuals need through space. Sometimes a period of no contact is the only way to regain a sense of self and reflect on the relationship from a healthy distance. Well, it doesn't mean she's done with you. It might simply mean she's taking time for herself to avoid getting lost in the relationship. You have the power to control your response. When she pulls away, you have the power to control how you respond. You can choose to chase her down and beg for her attention, or you can take this time to focus on your own growth. Use this opportunity to work on yourself. Become the best version of who you are and build a life that doesn't depend on her validation. When she sees you thriving, it could reignite her interest in you. 5, silence doesn't mean goodbye forever. A lot of people mistake no contact for a permanent end. In reality, it might just be a temporary situation. If you've built a strong connection, then the silence will likely pass, but it requires patience. Both of you are figuring out what you really want, and this period could serve as the time you both need to evaluate your emotions and your future together. Communication is key. Eventually, no contact can't go on forever, especially if there's genuine interest from both sides. When the time is right, you'll have to break the silence. The key here is to approach her when you've had the chance to reflect on your own feelings and what you want from the relationship. It's not about rushing back in, but about communicating effectively, letting her know you've respected the space and that you're ready to move forward, whether together or apart. No contact isn't the end of the road. It's a moment for introspection, a test, and an opportunity to grow both individually and together. If she's also doing no contact with you, take it as a chance to improve yourself. Work on your own life and let the relationship evolve naturally. Focus on your own development, and if the connection is meant to last, it will. Now, go out there and let your actions speak louder than your silence. No contact isn't always personal. This is one of the hardest truths to accept when you're in the middle of emotional silence. When someone you care about suddenly stops reaching out, replying to your messages, or acknowledging your presence, it's natural to assume the worst. You might think she's lost interest, found someone else, or simply doesn't care about you anymore. Your mind starts racing with all the possible reasons, and almost all of them point the finger directly at you. But here's the truth that's often buried under your fears and assumptions. Her silence might have absolutely nothing to do with you. We live in a world where emotional processing is rarely done out loud. Many people have been raised to internalize pain, suppress confusion, and keep their struggles hidden from even those closest to them. When someone goes into no contact, it's not always a message to her. or punish you. It can simply be a reflection of what they're going through. She might be dealing with personal battles, family issues, work, stress, identity questions, emotional burnout, mental health challenges that have absolutely nothing to do with your worth or how she feels about you. Sometimes people pull away not because they want to leave, but because they need time to think without pressure and without hurt. But don't assume in relationships, especially ones that are emotionally intense or fresh, things can feel overwhelming when every interaction carries the weight of expectations, decisions, and future talk. It can lead to emotional exhaustion. She may enter a period of silence, not to disappear, but to breathe, to evaluate her feelings without the noise of your messages or the pressure of immediate replies. This isn't a rejection of you, it's an attempt to reconnect with herself. Many people also struggle with emotional expression. Maybe she doesn't know how to communicate what she's feeling. Maybe she's scared that if she starts talking, she'll say something she can't take back. Silence, in this case, becomes a defense mechanism. It's safer than confrontation. It's easier than admitting I'm confused, or I don't know what I want, or I feel like I'm losing myself. And so she retreats, not because she hates you, but because she doesn't trust her own words in the moment. No contact can also stem from fear. Fear of getting hurt, fear of being vulnerable, fear of becoming dependent on someone else. If she's been hurt in the past, if she's dealt with betrayal, abandonment, or emotional manipulation, then her instinct might be to pull away the moment she starts to feel something real. Her silence could be her armor. It might be her way of saying, I'm scared, without actually saying it. And because people rarely teach us how to handle fear in relationships, we misinterpret that fear as coldness or rejection. There's also the possibility that she's trying to set boundaries not against you, but for herself. Maybe the relationship started moving too quickly. Maybe she felt like she was losing control over her own emotional stability. In these situations, no contact becomes a form of self-care. She steps back, not to erase you, but to regain her center, to make sure that she's showing up for herself before she continues showing up for someone else. That's not an insult to you. It's actually a sign of emotional maturity, even if it stings in the moment. It's easy to forget that everyone brings their own baggage into a relationship. Everyone has wounds, some deeper than others, and you might be completely present and emotionally available, but she could be fighting ghosts you know nothing about. Childhood trauma, past heartbreaks, toxic exes, feelings of unworthiness. These things don't just vanish because someone new enters the picture. Sometimes being with someone kind and caring actually intensifies those feelings. It makes the person question whether they even deserve love at all. And so they vanish, not out of malice, but out of emotional paralysis. Her no contact might also be circumstantial. Life gets heavy. People go through periods where they simply don't have the emotional energy to invest in another person, no matter how much they care. Grief, depression, burnout, illness, financial stress, these are all real things that pull people into survival mode. When someone's in that state, they're not thinking about romantic gestures or perfect reply. They're thinking about making it through the day. Her silence in this context, pushing it about pushing you away. It's about trying to hold herself together even in situations where the relationship had conflict or misunderstandings. No contact doesn't always mean I don't want to fix this. Sometimes it means I need time to process this without making it worse. People deal with emotional conflict differently. Some want to talk it out immediately. Others need time to cool off, reflect, and approach this situation with a clearer head. If she's in the latter group, her silence might be her way of protecting the relationship rather than ending it. She might be waiting until she feels strong enough to communicate effectively. All of this is to say, don't automatically assume that her silence is an attack on your worth. Don't spiral into self-blame or desperation. Give her the benefit of the doubt, and more importantly, give yourself peace of mind. You're not responsible for what she feels or how she chooses to handle her emotions. You can't control whether she reaches out again, but you can control how you interpret her absence. Choose to see it not as a rejection, but as redirection towards straight, understanding, healing, and clarity. No contact isn't always personal. It might be about healing, space, fear, confusion, or timing. It might be about her, not you. And that's something you must learn to accept with strength, not bitterness. It could be a test, one that doesn't come with instructions, clarity, or even fairness. When she suddenly goes quiet, withdraws, and stops communicating, it may not be because she's done with you, but because she wants to see something deeper than your words. She may want to see how you respond to distance. She may be watching not just what you do, but who you become when you feel uncertain, when you're unsure where you stand, and when you're no longer getting the validation or closeness you once had. This silence, this emotional gap, may not be a punishment. It could be a test. People test each other in relationships all the time, consciously or unconsciously. Some do it to seek reassurance, others do it to assess strength, and many don't even realize they're doing it. If she's pulling away, creating space between you, she might be trying to gauge your emotional resilience. She wants to know if you're grounded in who you are, or if you'll fall apart the moment things don't go your way. She wants to see if you can handle uncertainty without becoming needy or desperate. She may want to know whether your interest in her is based on genuine connection or on convenience and routine. This kind of test reveals something about her too. It shows that she's observing. Maybe she's been hurt before, maybe she's dealt with men who are all talk and no follow through. So now she doesn't just want promises. She wants to prove, not in the form of big gestures or dramatic declarations, but in how you behave when nothing is easy or certain. Will you respect her space? Will you stay calm and confident, even in silence? Or will you spiral, get angry, guilt trip her, or chase her down in fear? She may be watching how long you'll wait before you reach out, or she may be seeing what kind of energy you bring when you do. Are you composed, respectful, and understanding? Or are you emotional, accusatory, and reactive? These reactions matter to her because they reflect your emotional maturity. She's not just testing whether you care, she's testing how you care. Some men try to fix everything immediately because they can't stand emotional discomfort. Others step back, give her time, and remain composed because they understand that relationships aren't built only in presence, but also in patience. In many cases, this test is rooted in insecurity. She may not feel completely safe yet. She may wonder if you're really invested, if you're dependable, or if you'll just disappear when things get hard. By pulling away, she creates a situation where you're forced to reveal your true self. Because people can fake confidence when everything is going well, but distance, silence, and emotional ambiguity, that reveals character. She wants to see the man behind the charm, the one who shows up without being asked, the one who respects her boundaries without walking away completely, the one who holds the line between persistence and pressure. What makes this kind of test so difficult is that it's silent. She doesn't tell you it's happening. She doesn't give you rules. And she doesn't tell you how long it will last. All you have is your own instinct and the strength of your own identity. That's why so many men fail it, not because they're weak, but because they don't recognize it for what it is. They assume it's rejection and they react with panic. They overtext, call repeatedly, get emotional, or start accusing her of playing games. But often she's not playing a game. She's observing, she's deciding. She's seeing if you're as solid as you say you are. To pass this kind of test, you have to stay centered. You have to understand that distance doesn't always mean disinterest. Sometimes it's a filter. She wants to know if you're patient enough to let her come to you, if you respect her need for space without trying to control the outcome, if you continue to focus on your purpose, your growth, and your life, even in the absence of her presence. That doesn't mean you don't care, it means you're not dependent. And that's the exact kind of energy that attracts her back. Another layer of this is that she may want to be chased, but not in desperation. She may want to feel wanted, but not smothered. She may want to see that you care, but that your world doesn't fall apart without her. It's a delicate balance. If you do nothing, she might assume you didn't care enough. If you do too much, she might feel suffocated. The real challenge is showing up with confidence, not chaos. You can reach out once, maybe even twice, but after that, you've said enough. Your silence becomes more powerful than your words. It shows restraint. It shows self-respect, and ultimately it shows strength. Because here's the deeper truth. How you respond to her silence tells her how you'll handle bigger challenges in the future. If she gets overwhelmed or anxious or distant again, will you remain stable? Will you trust the process? Will you stay grounded in your own worth without demanding constant reassurance? These are the things she's watching for. She wants to feel safe, not just in your love, but in your steadiness. She wants to know that you won't lose yourself when you can control her, that you won't fall apart when things aren't on your terms. So yes, it could be a test, not because she's trying to manipulate you, but because she wants to see who you are when things aren't perfect. Anyone can show up when everything's easy, but the man who stays calm, clear, and grounded in uncertainty, that's the man she trusts. That's the man who earns her heart, not just with passion, but with presence. And that's the man who passes the test, not by chasing, but by standing tall in silence. She might need space. It's a simple sentence, but it carries a weight that many struggle to fully understand. When a woman suddenly steps back from the connection, when the messages slow down, the calls stop, and the warmth feels distant, it's easy to assume the worst. Most people immediately think she's losing interest, falling for someone else, or reconsidering the relationship altogether. But often, none of that is true. The truth is more grounded, more human, and more nuanced. Sometimes she's not walking away, she's just trying to breathe. She's overwhelmed and she needs space to reconnect with herself. Relationships, especially intense ones, can feel like emotional whirlwinds. They pull you in, flood your mind with constant thoughts of the other person, and create a sense of dependency that feels both exciting and exhausting. When a woman gets emotionally entangled too quickly or too deeply, it can lead to a feeling of losing her sense of identity. She starts to wonder who she is outside of the relationship. She might start feeling that her days revolve around your presence, your opinion, and your energy. That can be beautiful at first, but it can also become suffocating if there's no room for her to be her own person. When that feeling sets in, space becomes a necessity. Not because she wants to hurt you, not because she's bored, and not because she's done. She might simply need silence to think, solitude to realign, and distance to see things clearly. It's not about running away, it's about stepping back to regain emotional clarity. She needs time to reflect, to sort out what she's feeling, and to decide whether those feelings are coming from a place of true connection or emotional overload. Emotional overwhelm happens when there's too much energy, too many expectations, and too little time to process it all. Maybe you've had deep conversations, maybe there's been intense chemistry, or maybe the two of you have been spending nearly every moment together. Well, that kind of closeness can build intimacy, can also leave no breathing room. If she hasn't had time to reflect on how things are progressing, she might feel like she's being swept along without having a chance to catch her breath. That's when the silence begins. She might go quiet, not because she's angry or indifferent, but because she's trying to listen to herself. She's trying to figure out whether what she's feeling is genuine or just momentum. She's trying to discern whether she's in this because it's truly right for her or because she got caught up in the emotion and doesn't want to disappoint you. These are not easy questions to answer, and they can't be answered in the noise of constant interaction. She needs space to find the truth within herself. The difficult part is that, from your side, it looks like rejection. It feels like abandonment. The same person who was once warm, excited, and eager to talk now seems distant. It feels personal, even though it may not be. In reality, it's deeply personal for her because she's tuning into her own emotional frequency, which has been drowned out by the noise of connection. She's not ghosting you. She's grounding herself. When she pulls back, she might be asking herself critical questions. Am I ready for this kind of emotional investment? Do I really know this person, or do I just love how he makes me feel? Am I growing in this relationship, or am I losing parts of myself? These aren't questions you can answer for her. These are questions she has to answer alone. And that's why space matters. That's why silence can be healing. It gives her the room to find answers without the pressure of your presence. Another reason she might need space is that she's afraid of repeating past mistakes. If she's been hurt before, if she's rushed into things in the past and regretted it, she may have learned that taking space is a form of protection. It's a way to slow things down and examine the reality of the relationship, not just the potential. The fear of losing herself, the fear of getting hurt, or even the fear of hurting you if she's unsure about her feelings. All of that can push her to step away momentarily. In some cases, she's simply introverted or emotionally sensitive and needs solitude to recharge. Being around another person constantly, even someone she loves, can drain her energy. It doesn't mean she wants less of you. It means she needs more of herself. When she steps back, she's not deleting you from her life. She's reinforcing her boundaries so that she can eventually come back to the relationship with a clear heart and a refreshed mind. This kind of distance isn't easy to navigate, especially if you care deeply. It's tempting to reach out constantly, to ask what's wrong, to try to pull her back in, but the most respectful and powerful thing you can do is let her have her space without resentment. Don't punish her for needing time. Don't take her silence as a personal attack. Trust that if the connection is real, she'll return stronger. And even if she doesn't, you'll have kept your dignity intact by giving her what she needed rather than demanding what you wanted. The truth is, sometimes the best way to love someone is to step back and let them be, not to chase, not to control, but to understand. Space isn't always the beginning of the end. Sometimes it's the start of something deeper, something more balanced, more respectful, and more real. And if she truly values you, that space won't lead to distance. It will lead to clarity. And from clarity comes connection that's no longer rushed but rooted. You control your response. That's the truth most people overlook when they're faced with silence, distance, or uncertainty in a relationship. When someone you care about suddenly stops communicating or pulls away, the natural reaction is to panic. You want answers. You want to fix it. You want to know what went wrong, what you did, or what you could do to bring things back to the way they were. But in those moments when you feel the least in control of the situation, what you still do control is how you respond. That's your power, and it's a power that can turn emotional chaos into personal growth if you choose to use it wisely. The instinct might be to reach out repeatedly, to chase after the person who has gone quiet, to demand explanations or closure, but the more you chase, the more powerless you feel, because no matter how many times you send that haha message, call, or try to get a response, you can't control what the other person does. You can't force communication. You can't force connection. But what you can do is decide who you're going to be in the face of silence. That decision defines your character far more than any conversation ever could. When someone stops talking to you, they create a space not just between you and them, but within you. That space can either be filled with desperation, anxiety, and insecurity, or it can be filled with reflection, discipline, and growth. You get to choose. You can let that silence make you feel worthless, or you can use it as fuel to build your worth. You can spend your time over-analyzing every interaction, or you can spend your time improving your mindset, your body, your focus, and your life. Let the silence be a mirror. Let it show you what areas of your life you've neglected. Let it reveal how much of your self-esteem was tied to someone else's presence or approval. So when things are going well in a relationship, it's easy to ignore the cracks in your own foundation. But when silence falls, those cracks are exposed. That's not something to fear, it's something to fix. If her absence leaves you feeling like you've lost everything, that's not about her, that's about how little you've invested in yourself, and now is the time to change that. Start with your habits. Use the emotional energy you would have spent obsessing over the situation to build discipline. Get up earlier, work out harder, read more, learn something new, improve your health, expand your skill set, reinvent your routine. Don't just keep yourself busy to distract from the silence. Use this time to elevate who you are. When you grow stronger in the quiet moments, you become unshakable when life gets loud again. Take time to reflect too. Look at how you've shown up in the relationship. Were you authentic? Were you honest about your needs and boundaries? Were you over-investing emotionally and losing yourself in the process? Did you put her on a pedestal and forget that you're worthy of love without having to chase it? These are important questions, and the answers don't come in noise. They come in stillness. Let this time be one of self. Honesty. It might sting at first, but that sting will lead to wisdom if you face it head on. Remember that your value is not determined by how someone else treats you, it's determined by how you treat yourself. Especially when no one's watching. When she goes quiet, when the world feels like it's turning its back on you, how you carry yourself says everything about your inner strength. Do you lower your standards? How do you abandon your goals? Or do you level up and become someone even more powerful, more centered, and more at peace with who you are? You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be intentional. Responding with strength doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It means accepting what you can't control and using it as an opportunity to grow. It means understanding that every moment of silence can be a catalyst for transformation if you allow it to be. Growth doesn't always happen in the spotlight. Sometimes it happens in the quiet when you finally hear your own voice again. And growth doesn't mean waiting around for someone to come back. It means becoming so. Strong in your own skin that whether they return or not, you're still whole. Whether they realize your worth or not, you do. And whether the relationship reignites or fades away, you come out of the silence as someone better, not bitter. Someone who didn't let heartbreak harden them, but sharpen them. This is your moment. Not to react, but to rise. Not to beg, but to build. The silence may be out of your control, but what you do with it is entirely up to you. Don't waste this time chasing answers you may never get. Use it to become someone who no longer needs answers to feel secure. Use it to upgrade your life in ways that no one can take from you. Because once you've turned pain into power and silence into strength, you'll realize that the person who walked away wasn't your loss. They were your lesson. And your response? That became your transformation. Silence isn't necessarily permanent. When someone you care about goes quiet, disappears from your daily life, or stops returning your calls and messages, it can feel like the end. The mind quickly jumps to the worst conclusions. You assume it's over. You think you've been abandoned, rejected, or forgotten. But silence, especially in relationships, isn't always a full stop. Sometimes it's a pause. Sometimes it's a season of reflection. And sometimes it's just space that someone needs before they come back stronger, clearer, and more ready than before. No contact can feel brutal when you're on the receiving end of it. It's confusing, especially when things seem to be going well. You replay every word, every interaction, wondering where it all went wrong. But while you're doing that, the other person might not be gone for good. They might be processing. They might be overwhelmed. They might be dealing with emotions they don't yet understand themselves. In a world obsessed with instant communication and fast responses, taking a step back can feel unnatural, but it can also be necessary. Human emotions don't follow a straight path. Sometimes someone pulls away not because they've stopped caring, but because they care too much and don't know what to do with those feelings. Maybe she needs to sort out her own life. Maybe she's been hurt before and silence is her way of protecting herself. Maybe she's unsure if she's ready to give her heart to someone again. Her distance doesn't always mean detachment. It can mean confusion, fear, or simply the need for clarity. It's easy to forget that everyone processes life differently. Some people need to talk things out immediately. Others retreat to find their center before they're ready to re-engage. And when you're not in her head, you don't know which one she is. You don't know what she's battling internally, what memories or past pain are influencing her present decisions. But just because she needs silence now doesn't mean that silence will last forever. No contact might be a temporary chapter in a much longer story. Think about your own life. How many times have you needed to step away from someone or something, not because you didn't care, but because you needed to breathe, because you needed to get your mind and heart right? Before you could show up fully, we've all had moments when the noise of life became too loud, when the weight of expectations, became too heavy. It's in those moments that silence becomes healing. And there's also a strategic element to no contact that people don't often talk about. Sometimes a woman will go silent to test the emotional waters. She might want to see if you notice her absence, how you respond to the void, or whether you'll chase or give her space. This isn't always manipulation, it's often self-protection. It's her way of maintaining emotional safety while figuring out how deep she wants to go. But again, the silence doesn't mean she's vanished for good. It means she's watching, listening, feeling her way through the uncertainty. The danger is when you assume that silence equals rejection. That assumption can lead to panic, insecurity, and desperate behavior. And that desperation can push her even further away, because when someone takes space and you respond with neediness or emotional chaos, it confirms their fears. It tells them that maybe they were right to step back. But when you respond to silence with calm, strength, and respect, you shift the dynamic. You show that you're secure enough to mature enough to understand and confident enough not to chase what isn't meant to be forced. That kind of energy is attractive, it's rare, and it makes people reconsider, because silence isn't just a time for her to reflect, it's also a time for you to show who you really are when no one is watching. When she steps back, she's still aware of you, she still thinks about you, she might be checking in from a distance, and if what she sees is someone who's continuing to grow, to stay grounded, and to respect her boundaries, it can create a sense of safety. It can draw her back. Timing is everything. Sometimes two people are right for each other but meet at the wrong time. Life circumstances, emotional baggage, or internal growth can create a gap that feels like a goodbye, but really it's a delay. Silence is often the space where two people decide if they're truly aligned. And just because that decision isn't made instantly doesn't mean it won't lead back to connection. It's important to remember that emotional clarity doesn't come overnight. She may need weeks or even months to figure out what she wants. She might date others, focus on herself, or completely disappear from your world for a while. But that doesn't automatically mean the door is closed forever. Sometimes people come back when they're ready, when they've healed, and when they realize what they had was real. But they can only do that if the space you gave them was free of pressure and full of self-respect. That's why your role during silence matters so much. Not to wait around passively, but to live fully. Not to beg for her return, but to become someone she'd be drawn to again, naturally. When someone returns after silence, they don't want to find the same version of you they left behind. They want to see growth, stability, and quiet confidence. They want to feel like you've continued to become better, not bitter. Silence is not always a sign that something is over, and sometimes it's just a pause between two verses of the same song. Sometimes it's a reset, a necessary breather so that the relationship can come back healthier and stronger. And when you stop fearing silence and start respecting it, you realize it doesn't have to mean goodbye. It might just be a slow, silent way of saying, I need time, but I'm not gone. Eventually, communication is essential, no matter how much space was needed, how long the silence lasted, or how intense the emotions have been. There comes a time when silence must give way to words. Human connection cannot thrive in a vacuum. You can reflect all you want, grow in solitude, and build emotional strength in the quiet. But at some point you have to step forward and speak. If the relationship ever meant anything, and if there's any hope of rekindling it or finding closure, communication becomes the bridge that carries both of you across the divide. When someone goes silent, whether it's through a no contact rule or simply emotional withdrawal, it often creates a heavy fog of uncertainty. Questions pile up, assumptions fill the gaps, and in the absence of clear communication, the mind creates its own stories, some true, some completely imagined. That's the danger of prolonged silence. It doesn't just create distance, it creates misinterpretations. It allows doubt, fear, and insecurity to take root. That's why, when the moment feels right, when both sides have had the time and space to think clearly, it becomes necessary to open the door again and have a real conversation. Approaching someone after silence isn't about demanding answers or forcing a resolution. It's about showing emotional maturity. It's about choosing respect over resentment. It's about seeking Clarity without clinging to expectations. The way you approach the conversation matters just as much as the conversation itself. If you go into it emotionally charged with blame in your tone or desperation in your words, you risk pushing her further away. But if you approach her calmly with humility and honesty, you invite a genuine dialogue. You have to remember that she may have gone through her own transformation during the silence. You're not the only one who's been thinking, growing, or questioning things. She may be nervous. She may be cautious. She may still be unsure of what she wants. That's why it's so important to speak with clarity, but without pressure. Tell her where you stand, but give her room to share where she's at. Don't try to control the outcome. Focus instead on being authentic and present in that moment. Communication isn't about convincing, it's about connecting. Sometimes people avoid communication because they're afraid of what they'll hear. They think, what if she's moved on? Or what if I've already lost her? But avoiding the truth doesn't protect you. It only prolongs your confusion. At some point, you have to be brave enough to face whatever the answer may be. That courage not only helps you grow, but it shows her that you're a man who values honesty over comfort. That kind of strength is rare, and it's the kind that earns respect, no matter what the outcome is. When you finally decide to break the silence, keep your message simple and sincere. Don't come in with a script or an agenda. Don't try to say everything perfectly. Just speak from the heart. Acknowledge the silence. Acknowledge her. Space. Let her know you've respected her need for time and that you've used it to reflect and grow. Then invite her to share if she's ready. That small act of vulnerability can break down walls faster than any polished speech ever could. Timing is crucial too. Don't force a conversation before either of you is ready. Wait until the emotions have settled, until the anger and fear have faded, and until you can speak without needing anything from her, only wanting clarity and connection. And if she's not ready, don't take it personally. Sometimes communication is a door you knock on gently, not one you kick open. If she needs more time, give it to her. The important thing is that you showed up with respect, not resentment. One of the most powerful outcomes of breaking the silence is that it shows you've grown. It proves you didn't just sit in the pain. You used it to evolve. That kind of emotional leadership creates trust. And trust is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's starting fresh or being rebuilt. When she sees that you're not there to control or chase or beg, but to talk with respect and integrity, it gives her the space to open up as well. Communication isn't just about words, it's about energy. And when yours is calm and centered, it invites the same from her. Rebuilding after silence doesn't always mean rekindling romance. Sometimes the conversation leads to closure. Sometimes it leads to friendship. Sometimes it leads to the realization that you've both outgrown the dynamic that once existed. But no matter what it leads to, having that conversation is what brings peace. It ends the guessing game. It replaces confusion with truth. And even if it hurts, it gives both of you something real to move forward with. But other times, communication after silence leads to a deeper connection. When both people have taken time to grow and heal, when both sides approach the conversation with maturity and love, it can reignite something powerful. The relationship that emerges might be stronger than it was before, because now it's built on more than just emotion. It's built on awareness, understanding, and the mutual willingness to face hard things together. At the end of the day, silence can serve a purpose, but it can't last forever. Words matter, conversations matter. The courage to speak, to listen, and to understand, that's what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to show up with truth, listen with presence, and let whatever happens next be rooted in honesty, because that's what real connection is all about. So what if she's also doing no contact with you? Don't let that silence define your worth or dictate your next move. Let it refine you. Let it sharpen your focus, because in the quiet you discover who you really are. Maybe she's healing, maybe she's testing, maybe she's gone for good, but whether she returns or not, this time is not wasted if you use it to become stronger, wiser, and more grounded. You don't chase what's unclear, you become clear within yourself. And when that day comes, if it comes, When communication opens again, let her meet a man who didn't fall apart in the silence, but who built himself in it.